Welcome to your reset with Christiane Piano, where the purpose is to support you in releasing all that you are not, so the truth of who you really are can emerge. This is accomplished through working with the body-mind from an ontological perspective. We use various modalities to support you in supporting yourself exactly where you are, so that you may return to an experience of wholeness and ease, moment by moment. Deep reflection is one of the greatest tools through which to do this. To take a moment, to pause, assess, reflect, and literally and figuratively reset, come back to center, and move back into your one and precious life with increased clarity and purpose. Hello, this is Christiane Piano, and this week's episode is a reflection on family. Family can be an emotionally charged conversation to have. Yet, considering we are in the month of December, when people tend to spend more time with their family, I thought it could be supportive to speak to it, as there is so much life possible in our relationships when we use our present-day experiences to grow, learn, develop, and create new possibilities for experiences with our family of origin and anyone else we consider to be part of our family, shared blood or not. There's a quote by Ram Dass that states, "If you think you are enlightened, try spending a week with your family." In the modern day and world, there are so many expressions of family. They come in all shapes and sizes, and the patriarchal model, although still running quite strong, is no longer the only option one has. Yes, I did say the word option, and what do I mean by that? Well, when you have more than one choice to pick from, you can create your own model based on what it is you would like to create as an expression of your family. And so, being that you have choices, there are options within those choices. When I say family, I am referring to whomever you consider to be your family. It could be the nucleus of mom and dad, brothers and sisters. It could include grandmother and grandfather, etc. But what is important is how you define family for you. So when you think of family, what do you think of? Please take a moment to jot it down. Who do you consider to be family? What type of memories come up for you? What emotional weight or lightness or perhaps indifference is present for you? Jot down anything that comes into your awareness, and please do your best to suspend any judgment. You see, the only family you know is the family you experience. And you're dealing with family even if you don't see them. Frederick Buechner, an author, stated, "You can kiss your family and friends goodbye and put miles between you. But at the same time, you carry them with you in your heart, your mind, your stomach, because you do not just live in a world, but a world lives in you." And when speaking to carrying family in your heart, mind, and stomach, This is not a reference to something poetic. It is actually, in reality, the truth that we carry experiences within our very cells of each and every person we have come into contact with, no matter how brief the contact was. And one of the tricky aspects of speaking to family and unearthing your relationship to family is the picture you have in your mind of what you think family should look like and feel like. There are so many images portrayed of the shoulds, of what it should look like, what it should feel like. It is challenging to see through the clouds of it all. What has influenced your perspective and idea of family? So let's take a look at some idioms and expressions used regarding family. There are many, but I'll just list a few. Blood is thicker than water, which means that family relationships are stronger than any other kind of relationship. This may or may not be true for you. A close-knit family. This expression refers to a family that is very close and supportive of each other. Is that an experience you've had for yourself with family? Cut from the same cloth describes people who are similar in personality or behavior. Does this reflect your experience of yourself and your family? Like father, like son, or like mother, like daughter, means that a child is very similar to their parent in personality or behavior. Does this mirror your experience? A chip off the old block. This expression refers to a child who is very similar to their parent in personality or behavior. How does that land or resonate for you? The apple doesn't fall far from the tree means that a child is very similar to their parent in personality or behavior. Once again, the similarities in expressions to parent. To keep it in the family. And this means to keep something within the family, such as private information, or to keep a family business or tradition going, or secrets held close to the heart. What resonates for you in that? So there are these ideas put out there in the world about family, and they don't necessarily reflect back our own experience. And this is where our knots form. Something is not that should be, or something is that should not be. And where you were born, where you grew up, the culture, religion, and the people that raised you, being your birth parents or not, have all had an influence on your experience of family. And some of you may have pleasant memories, and others of you may not, while some have a mixed bag. Now, we are not looking to judge our experience of family, yet we are looking to understand our relationship to it so that we can create the possibility to clear out what has not been completed, so that the family you wish to create for yourself today, with family of origin or your own, has the possibility of coming into expression, or perhaps even remodeled from today for present needs and realizations and growth of the unique individuals that make up the family unit. As it is the holiday season, this can also support you whenever you may find yourself experiencing challenges, especially when you find yourself being triggered. And something you can ask yourself when you notice you're being triggered is my reaction, is it related to what is unfolding in front of me right now? Or is this something very old? There's a beautiful quote by the Buddha that states, "A family is a place where minds come in contact with one another. If these minds love one another, the home will be as beautiful as a flower garden. But if these minds get out of harmony with one another, it is like a storm that plays havoc with the garden. A way of looking at your experience of family could be like your sounding board or mirror, if you will, into who you think you are. What do I mean by this? Well, I'll do my best to keep this simple and concrete as possible. You see, when you are born into this world, you are a blob of bliss. And from within your mother's womb onward, you have experiences and feedback from the world around you. You sense and feel prior to seeing with your eyes. You were like a sponge taking in everything from the sounds of voices, the touch of your caregivers, the nourishing from your mother's breast. And you absorbed all of the energies around you. Each family has its own energetic expression, its own feel. Each family has its own raison d'être. And as you develop through time, you absorb examples of behavior, ways of being, appearing, moving through space, expressing. And within that, you eventually take on a role within the energetic organization of your family. And it is the first setting where you learn what is invited or not, what is considered good or bad, what is appreciated or not, liked or not, looked for or discouraged, expected of you or not. And you begin to get a sense of the world and your place in it. And within this setting, you start to develop a personality based on the continual feedback within your family, spoken and unspoken. You take on an expression of your own, some of it unique to you, some of it passed on through the generations. As a child, you learn very quickly what will receive a smile, a warm response, and what will not. And as children who depend on the people who are in charge of their care, their survival depends on it. And many of your very own behaviors form as a response to wanting and needing to feel safe, loved, seen, accepted. Now, some of us are born into the same energetic frequency of our family, and others of us are not. If you fit in, that is, energetically resonated with the family, the rest of your family members, then your experience may have been pretty smooth. But if you sensed that you had to change who you were to be accepted, to receive approval and love, to never disappoint, to meet expectations, well, this is where the challenges can begin. Each family unit has its own set of rules, guidelines, morals, and values. And as a child, you don't choose what works for you or not, but you do have a felt sense of what it feels like to be a part of your family. Now, if you think about the felt experience of your family of origin, what would it be? Warmth, love, calm, acceptance, danger, criticism, competition, severity, judgment, chaos. Try to catch the experience with one word if you can, and simply jot it down. You see, within this education of belonging and acceptance within the family, Every child wants to feel seen, loved, and accepted. But if who you are is an expression of life, your essence, does not line up with the values and expectations of the family, then you will need to be shaped into what is necessary and needed for the family unit. Some families go to the extreme on this, and others barely notice you exist, so the gap is very wide. What was yours? Did your family have an expectation regarding your behavior, your schooling, your sexual orientation, your job, your social circle, your future partner, your activities and extracurricular? Were there any topics off limit? Or were you free to share in conversation with whatever was going on for you and unfolding? Were you allowed to express yourself when you were not in agreement? Did you feel seen, felt, and heard? What kind of examples of communication did you learn? How did people express their emotions? Now, depending on your age, when you're listening to this episode, you may still be living within your family unit. So these would be present tense questions as opposed to past tense questions. So please feel free to frame it for your own particular experience. These questions are many, and there could be others, but if you were to take a moment to reflect on your personality today and the family you grew up with or are presently growing up within, perhaps you will begin to have some insights. See or notice things you haven't noticed before. Again, not good or bad or wrong, just a newfound clarity on how the family you were raised in influenced your expression as a personality. And within all of this, you begin to forget who you truly are. It happens naturally. It's part of the human experience. You begin to associate what you do with who you are. But what you do is not who you are. Your personality is not who you are. Your reputation is not who you are. Your profession is not who you are. The many roles you play is not who you are. This is where things get even trickier. We forget who we are, and life takes on a different kind of flavor. And you are no longer experiencing yourself as a blob of bliss. The return to experiencing bliss comes later on in life. But first you need to live some years, navigate the world outside of your family before you come upon this once again and rediscover. So eventually your world expands beyond family. You start school, you make friends or not, you eventually go out into the workforce or not, and perhaps even begin to travel the world. And with each evolution of experience and expression, you will receive a clear feedback, spoken or not, as to whether your self-discovery is encouraged or not, accepted or not. Either way, you begin to discover what the world is like without being under the careful watch of your family, or in some cases, under constant observation and critique. In some cases, you create enough space for your self-exploration, and your established family roles are put aside, or perhaps even put on pause. Or the absolute opposite, you're constantly being reminded that you must stick with them and your obligations. And then there is everything in between. In any case, as you begin to navigate the world outside the family, the you know yourself to be within the family unit, the person people think you are, may have an opportunity to be set aside, and you begin to access a new level of freedom. A freedom to explore with the encouragement, love, and support of your family, respecting that your life is your one and precious life, distinct but not separate from the family, and yet respected. You are part of a family unit, and yet you are a unique expression of life. Your way of being most likely begins to have a shift. Or perhaps you go out into the world and you desire the freedom to explore, but you don't receive the encouragement, love, and support from the family, and it is not respected. Which has been your experience? So it's important to be clear, there's nothing wrong with an old way of being. And as you grow and develop, you'll begin to express new ways of being, and whatever's old has been and has served you. And it's perfectly natural and normal to begin to express yourself in new ways of being. It's part of a natural process in life. So there's nothing wrong with an old way of being. It's simply that you've outgrown it. Just like when you outgrow childhood and you become an adolescent. But whether you are aware of it or not, the idea of who you think you are, that was shaped at a very early age in your family setting, is by now deeply ingrained. And when you choose a group of friends, a partner, you will attract people who confirm the idea more often than not, quite unconscious, of who you think you are. And therefore, the loop of experience gets recreated. You may not feel the freedom to live into your new skin, a newfound expression. There's a very delicate balance that occurs here. But either way, no matter what unfolded for you, all of it, every single experience, once you become aware of it, it can then be used as fertilizer for your own growth and self-expression in the path of rediscovering who you truly are. And the only way to interrupt this loop is to first become conscious of the repeating pattern of a belief you have about yourself and the world regarding your family. Repeating patterns sometimes make themselves known in particular contexts and can be triggered by the smallest of subtle communication. So small and subtle, you may not even be aware that it's happening. But as you awaken, as you become more aware, perhaps you'll get curious. Perhaps you'll wonder why certain patterns repeat themselves. You may even decide to begin a voyage to get to the root of the pattern, beyond the rational explanation. I personally have been on the voyage for a very long time. The tipping point of curiosity for me was when I personally became a mother. As I began to notice patterns arising that I did not want to repeat with my own children, then I took the dive. I didn't want to repeat with my own children what did not feel good for me as a child. And this is where I was confronted with my own way of being, my energetic resonance, who I was being, and the space I was holding within my family as a mother for my children. Sometimes I liked what I saw in the mirror, and many times, honestly, I did not. But I made the choice to look as I wanted to complete what I could, so as not to pass it on to them, knowing that I could not save them from having their own human experience, but I could do my part in completing generational experiences. You see, the process of maturation is loosening your grip on who you know yourself to be, so that you can become who you truly are. And part of this process is fully owning your experience of who you are being, and at the same time getting to the root of that experience and seeing those perceptions just for what they are. Learned behavior. Your personality is not who you are. Your personality is developed first and foremost in your family environment. And this is where you discover who you think you are. When the holidays roll around each year and you return home, or interact from a distance or not. Remember, as stated in the beginning of this episode, the only family you know is the family you experience. You are dealing with family even if you don't see them. And this period can be fraught with what is experienced as something like a landmine. Going back into the family dynamic during the holiday season can often trigger us. For many, there is an experience of disconnect, or perhaps returning to something familiar, and yet you do not experience yourself in the same way. Perhaps something feels off. The role you were given and played so very well for a long time may feel like a straitjacket. You may notice old behaviors coming out, a sense of restriction and discomfort that will show up in your posture, your physical sensations, your breathing patterns, your mood, and you may wonder why all of this is happening. Perhaps after having listened to this episode, you get a sense for why, and that you are not alone in this experience. It is quite common, but not often talked about. As you explore your experience this holiday season of family and beyond, know that whomever you consider your family to be, may you explore the possibility of sharing in conversation that creates a new family dynamic, a new expression of energy that embraces everyone's uniqueness with humility, compassion, and a deep remembering that we are all on this path of life, needing and wanting to be embraced for who we truly are without judgment and conditions. A couple of years back, I led an online session for the holiday season called Family. And the participants found the following exercise I'm about to share with you quite supportive. So in that spirit, I share it with you here. May it prove supportive for you as you move through this season of family and trigger moments. So I'll call this exercise Completing with Family. And the point is to resolve everything from the past that allows for laying the groundwork for a new beginning. Completion does not mean to finish or to end. So a question to ask yourself is, with whom in your family is something not complete? With whom are you experiencing resistance, resentment, or some type of regret? Please make a list of any member of your family with whom you feel you have an unresolved issue or problem. Not a minor one, but a major one, whether the person is alive or not. And then you'll write down, what's the incompletion? Write about 1 to 2 sentences describing the incompletion. List what is bothering you. Main 1 or 2 issues. For example, you have an issue with mother. Is there an upset? What is the upset? What is the emotion? Where is it located? And remember, specificity is the key. The mind will resist specificity. Once you have completed writing that, examine what you wrote and place it in one of the following frameworks. The first one is thwarted intention, which means something you were intending, but something got in the way. Second, unfulfilled expectation, something that did not happen, but you wanted it to. Third, undelivered communication, something you never said or was never said to you that you wanted to hear. Now, they do overlap, but pick one. You can't do this wrong. Now, remember, what is a problem? A problem is something is not that should be, or something is that should not be. Work with your nots. The surface level is to look at what did not happen, or the layer of doing or having. The undelivered communication is something you did not do, but the not is the way you think you are being, not. You see, we want to get underneath. We want to get underneath that to the level of being. What is the way of being that leads you to what you did or did not do? Being leads to doing. Here is an example. I never told my mother I loved her. Surface level would be something like, the not is I did not tell my mother I love her. On a deeper level is the being level. Why did you not tell your mother? I think I am, fill in the blank. Or I think I am not, fill in the blank. The undelivered communication is something you did not do, but the not is the way you think you are being, not. The distinction here is the future you desire with your family can only happen when you have completed whatever it is you are resisting, resenting, or regretting with your family from the past. Just as the future emerges all by itself when you've released the knots in your family history, there is then possibility for a new future. Whatever you can complete with members of your family of origin, you will not have to repeat with the family you start. And if you have already started a family but are experiencing some bumps along the way, which is par for the course, then this will support you in finding a new way of getting to the root of yourself as a family, and may even inform the environment you and your partner choose to create for the family you are growing together. Family is a felt experience. Underneath the appearances, the superficial layers, where is more presence called for, so that each of you can be for one another without all the loaded expectations. I do hope you find this episode supportive as you navigate your life. Feel free to share it, pass it on, like, or follow. I am excited to announce coming in January of 2025 is the Reflections Club. Please join me and a vibrant community of individuals from all over the globe who are passionate about the benefits of body-mind well-being. For more details, check out my website, www.christianpiano.com, and head on over to the podcast page for information on the ins and outs and how to join. I hope to see you with us